normally. Pastor said you're not charging any phone. I told you. Okay, it's fine. Good evening and welcome to this very special draft, the federal draft. It is the first of its kind. We talked about it, we waited for it, and it is here today. But it is another weekend, and before we get into the drafting of today, we will first off get you the Undaunted weekly recap, a time when we get you the major highlights from our week news bulletin. I am Star Smart.
Now, this week's report has been so intense, but then glaring. A major highlight was hosting the Vice President, Mr. Eric Atey. We also looked at the indictment and the political entry cases, as well as the federal draft of today. Well, before we get into the draft proper, let's get you the recap in detail right after the break. All right, we told you this week that in an attempt to raise a standard against the defense mechanism of the Home Front Liberation Fighters in Metcham County, the Colonial Republic of Cameroon forces decided to use the Fulanis against the indigents of whom to these talks of failed La Republic de Cameroon ruler Paul Biya and Bazuna liberation fighters in whom are sons and daughters of the indigents and none from within the Fulanis. Now, to achieve this devilish plan of putting two communities more at the Fulani's youth were given sophisticated weapons by La Republic de Cameroon to protect themselves against the indigents with whom they have been living peacefully with.
Also, this week, we did report that some members of the genocidal Biya government have been blacklisted by the US government for committing crimes against humanity because of the way they go about executing the war against Amazonia, not least of which is the killing of a US missionary, Charles Wesco, shot by the Colonial La Republique du Cameroon military in Bamenda local government area on October 30th, 2018, which they tried and failed to pin on Amazonians.
Well, La Republic, the current colonial forces deployed in Amazonia are making life tough for the people of southern Cameroon. But it is sad and said that when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. Two proprietors who own two locally brewed wine factories have been arrested by elements of the colonial Bamenda Central Police. Arrested over the non-acquisition of brewing licenses operating in a dirty environment, lack of quality control, and the use of old and dirty part of the allegations labeled against the owners of the business, specialized in the production of red wine, popularly in Bamenda as 3-in-1 and sold in the local market. The two factories produce a brand master fruit wine and Chantorial.
Well, also this week, we learned that meritocracy has no place with the appointment of state men and women with the La Republique du Cameroon government. Nepotism, favoritism, and the other vices are the measuring rod for the attribution of functions in the colonial Paul Biya's-led government. The level of development is a reflection of the caliber of administrators handling affairs in La Republique du Cameroon. That is more of the reason why corruption has eaten deep into the fabrics of every sector. Because the so-called Minister of Territorial Administration was unable to differentiate between a building permit and a driver's license.
Also this week, the RO team made up of three great men, fire-eating legal luminaries, that is Barrister Ghana, Barrister Frunto, and Barrister Mbesia, called on Amazonians to remain calm as they described the matter that is ongoing as a golden opportunity for Amazonians to make case plainly to the world that has been adamant ever since the colonial La Republique du Cameroon dictator Paul Biya, the occupier, declared war on the peace-loving and justice-seeking Amazonians over 5 years and counting.
Yeah, and also this week, it came to our knowledge that the hard-headedness, which is of course not a new thing, the hard-headedness of the CPDM is becoming some issue, especially when the same mouth speaks of relaunching party activities in full gear, meaning that there had been nothing operational on the ground. And then it goes ahead to make an untrue statement, again saying that we continue to encourage militants of our great party to take advantage of the return to normal life. While Aqua Stephen Tambu shamelessly calls a moribund CPDM party that ushered in corruption, embezzlement of public funds, nepotism, tribalism, divide and rule, and a senseless war that is killing Amazonians in tens of thousands, a great party indeed that has kept its entire cabinet or whole government in Kundegi prison because of pilfering and lack of accountability and transparency.
Also, this week, we told you that La Republic de Cameroon has abolished the annual 8 million pocket money that was given to parliamentarians every March season in the name of micro project financing, but which most parliamentarians, especially those from the southern Cameroons, that is Amazonia, used for the upkeep of their multiple mistresses in Yaoundé.
All right, also, an interesting story brought to you this week was that of Chris Ano. Numerous bank accounts of him, as well as transactions, evidence of money forwarded to him, have been uncovered in southern Cameroon, captured in the program The Brief on My Media Prime TV. Here is a video. Let's take a quick look of that, or better yet, let's just go ahead because according to the report, the information is in local newspaper as reported bank accounts belonging to Chris Anu and some evidence of monies forwarded to him have been uncovered. These transactions are money collected from people kidnapped, and the kidnappers carry out their operations based on instructions from Chris Anu, we got to hear.
All right, we also told you that on Wednesday, December 7th, 2022, it was another hot one all around Bui. Now, the Bui warriors, under the leadership of Major General Tokando, launched a powerful attack on La Republic de Cameroon terrorist station in Tobi and Kumbo local government area. The attack came from multiple fronts designed to confuse the enemy and put them at loggerheads. The warriors planned or started their attack at 6 p.m. Amber time when the terrorists were relaxing. 3 of the terrorists were immediately neutralized at the prison yard. Terrorists, bees, turned their weapons against the terrorist La Republic of Cameroon army, with both sides thinking they were shooting at the Bui warriors.
Well, the heat in Bui County on Wednesday continued in Zekwa local government area and so, where the Bui Unity Warriors of Wakang Barracks and team led by Major General Kapo brought down 2 BS military cars in the evening about 9 p.m. of Wednesday in a locality in Sop Zekwa local government area, Bui County. Well, at the time, these 2 destroyed cars were still positioned there with a high probability of causing several casualties. This was done through the use of 2 launchers, so we should calculate what the casualties will be. Well, the Major General assured that his team and himself are very safe and celebrating.
Also, armed gang men who identify themselves as armed fighters rained bullets on the 4 buses to express their frustration and anger. These so-called armed fighters became furious when they were informed that the manager is not on seat at the moment. They resorted to shooting 4 buses, damaging the tires and shattering the windshields. Luckily, with the heavy shooting that lasted for a while, only material damage was recorded with no casualties.
Well, moving on with a story for this week. Supposed amber fighters in the action name of Commander Nto of Bafut 7 Qatar was killed by unknown gunmen. The killing took place on Wednesday, November 30th, 2022 at the Ntanka neighborhood of Bamendangwe. Now, reports holds that engaged in an operation at the Ntanka neighborhood, Commander Nto was shot on the leg by the unknown gunmen. He managed to escape into an uncompleted building and was later uncovered by the men who shot his leg and was then killed.
Other information says the commandant was an expert in kidnapping and stealing of cars. Equally that he stole cows from the sisterhood in Bafut and even attempted to rape a sister. Now, we are yet to uncover the truth to the story of Commandant Nto. Now, that's all we have for you for the recap. Right after the break, we'll bring you fresh stories from today. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. From reports gathered, information shows that FM 10 Kobo and some of his men have been compromised by the enablers. Reason why Indian County that used to vibrate and cause nightmares to the occupier colonial La Republic to Cameroon genocidal forces has swung into oblivion of late. But behold, the Amazonian liberation struggle being God ordained.
Well, they say every disappointment is a blessing, and as our marine-based self-defense volunteers have, in an unexpected turn, captured a major oil base in the Bakassi Peninsula. Our marine-based self-defense volunteers seem to have discovered hidden oil pipeline in Bakassi Peninsula. And what they need are more granites, he says, more sticks and sophisticated equipment to blow off the pipeline that exports our oil clandestinely to our enemies. Well, brave all the restoration fighters, they'll hear us soon.
All right, and we'll definitely bring you that video. But then let's get this report. It says disturbing information from Etsu Fongom local government area, Menchum County. It says last week the Fulani went on a killing spree after their cattle had destroyed crops in Gayama. Now, 5 assassins perished in a gun battle with the ARF's thunder strike, and unfortunately, one Amazonian Restoration Forces paid the ultimate price. Well, yesterday, again, the same Fulani attacked the Gayama community, and unfortunately, 7 civilians were killed, making a total of 8 persons from Eshu.
Well, the list of some of the victims killed by the Fulani in Esso or Fang just Bu Mwa, May Eli, The Rock, Bong Siwai, May Tom. While the sound of gunshots and the smell of gunpowder are still in the air, with many civilians unaccounted for. We're not ignorant of the tactics being used by forces of occupation, the administration and elite, or accomplices in Mencham County, are using to maintain the apparent yoke of slavery. Well, our people must live free or use the last fiber of their being, fight till the last man standing. Here's a video.
All right, so the Colonial La Republic Cameroon government admits its inability to provide solutions. I would like to apologize for the being quite long, but given the gravity of the situation, it is necessary. Now, this particular write-up is from an Ambazonia. It says an audio that has gone viral on WhatsApp since December 8, 2022 is heard by the Colonial La Republic to Cameroon's Minister of Finance during the review of Cameroon's 2023 budget. He says, speaking on behalf of the colonial failed Yaoundé government and not on his own behalf, this minister said that Cameroon's tax and customs revenue would amount in 2023 to some 300 billion francs CFA.
Okay, now, but these 300 billion rather will simply cover in their entirety current operating expenses. There will therefore be practically nothing for investment and the payment of the especially domestic debt. State service providers and other state creditors like teachers need to be well prepared to drag the devil by the tail. This statement sends shivers down the spine and should seriously worry Cameroonians.
Now, it goes on to say, indeed, in 2023, the money collected will essentially be used to pay civil servants, the military expenses, the purchase of administrative cards, fuel for the administrations. There will be practically nothing for public investment, especially productive industry, and so many others he mentioned. He says, in short, the development of French Cameroon will be put more on hold. He goes on to say this situation had been foreseeable for years, given the budgetary orientation and state expenditure. No real productive investment policy capable of generating resources has been put in place since 2006, the year in which the completion point of the HIPC initiative was reached.
Okay, coming from a state that still makes promises to Amazonians. Well, we still remember the fire alert launches of the economist Christian Penda Ekoka or Dieudonné Asumba. Well, French Cameroon has been content to resort to external indebtedness to finance the current expenditure of the state or infrastructure, which until now raises questions about their economic reliability. The African Development Bank AFDB, which is the Pan African tool for financing development in relation with the African Union AU and the United Nations UN Industrial Development Organization, produced the 24th last November, while our Republic to Cameroon were immersed in the atmosphere of the World Cup, a classification on the low level of industrialization of Cameroon. Well, despite its enormous potential, our Republic to Cameroon is ranked 24th behind Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, and Congo.
A wallop from East rank in the 1980s when it was among the first most industrialized countries in Africa. This very dishonorable ranking once again questions the outcome of all these struggling projects announced with great fanfare during the CPDM presidential campaigns, great ambitions, great achievements, great realizations, great emergence. It is also proof that La Republic de Cameroon's significant debt, which amount to 12,000 billion in June 2022. Now, according to the latest report from the Cassier Antom, the amortizement will not have been used to provide the country with production tools.
Well, this allows us to say that La Republic du Cameroon's debt is unproductive because debt must be able to create and generate activities that repay it. What therefore will all this debt have really been used for? These loans, which should have supported the industrial development of La Republic du Cameroon. Well, during the questions to the colonial government, the PCRN MP, the Honorable Cabral Libby, had asked an essential question but voluntarily remained unanswered on the share of productive investment on the budget and the indebtedness of La Republic du Cameroon. What does La Republic du Cameroon put as money for its industrialization? Even infrastructure such as hydroelectric dams, highways, and roads are unfinished and below their productivity expectations. This is the case of the indebted project of the Mameville Dam of the Douala Yaoundé Highway.
Now, the consequence of this finicky economic policy is that there are no industries and, more generally, no activities in the sector of large scale productive investment that can impact the growth of the country's economy. As a reminder, it is productive investments that create wealth, boost growth, and generate jobs in a country. It is also the returns from these direct productive investments that repay debts. However, the absence of productive investment obliges La Republic to repay its debt by going into even more debt to pay its debt. Now, this is called refinancing. This is what happened in 2020 as Euro bond of 450 billion CFA francs, which is an international bond loan, which made it possible to repay another Euro bond from 2015.
Well, by increasing taxes and duties, as a result, it is the common people already deprived of the minimum essential conditions of life who are called upon to repay the unproductive debt contracted by the Sale Yaoundé colonial government. Fiscal stamps go up from 1,000 francs CFA to 1,500 francs CFA in 2023. The airport tax which had been cancelled, is now to be reinstated as a separate payment per the 2023 finance law effective January 1st. 1,000 franc CFA for all domestic flights, 25,000 franc CFA for flights within the CMAC region, 40,000 for international flight of CMAC region. In economy, 120 francs for flight outside the CMAC X in business class. Hence, this crazy tax increase that is going on with the 2023 finance law.
And yet, in their own SND 30 and well before the DHCE, they had nevertheless listed productive investment and particularly industrialization in particular through the transformation of our raw materials as priorities and how to achieve our industrialization of La Republic to Cameroon and therefore productive investment when, for example, the mining law only reserves 15% of its mining resources for local processing. All industrial experts are unanimous in saying that these 15% reserved for local industries cannot help develop the industrial sector of a country, which truly has industrialization ambition. This is also the case with the forestry industry.
Well, after passing laws and even regulations at the community level, La Republic continues to export logs while these processed locally would have created income generating and job creating industries. Similarly, in the area of fishing, La Republic du Cameroon does not have fishing industries, allowing fishes to be caught on its maritime coast. This would also have avoided fish imports, which further widens the foreign exchange deficit. According to a recent report by a Belgian television channel, more than 100 foreign vessels falsely flying the Cameroonese flag are fishing off both the Cameroonese and Amazonian coast, having obtained front fishing permits from the colonial La Republic du Cameroon authorities. All this fish is sold outside, and these fishing boats mainly employ foreigners.
Colonial Public Declaration Minister of Finance also mentioned the example of rise in prices in the price of clinker, which is a raw material that allows the manufacture of cement. How can we accept that La Republic de Cameroon is still obliged to import clinker when these materials is in abundance in Gaida? All you have to do is create a clinker factory there to supply the various cement factories in the country. With these few examples, the CPDM regime shows that it has no intention of industrializing or fostering productive investment in Cameroon.
To deny it, the colonial La Republic du Cameroon's mining code must therefore be revised on the quota of 15% of mining resources reserved for local industries. The ban on the export of logs must be implemented, as well as the creation of Cameroonese companies fishing and clinker manufacturing in Gida. Well, even at the SNH, which manages La Republic du Cameroon's hydrocarbon resources, information indicates that Cameroon is in negotiation with Equatorial Guinea to export oil gas resources there for their industrial transformation in Equatorial Guinea. Now, how can a country develop the industry of Equatorial Guinea instead of its own? Quite ridiculous, right? Well, such an undertaking is an act of high treason. It must be stopped. Where is the national preference in all of this?
Now, young Cameroonese need jobs, and it is in Cameroon that they must find industries that would employ them also. Now, in relation to the sum of 800 billion annual fuel subsidies that the colonial government prides itself on supporting to avoid increases at the pump, why not go into debt to build and provide La Republic to Cameroon with a refinery that will process its own oil?
But what can otherwise justify the maintenance of imports of refined oils or to be refined, if not the collection of commissions by a few stakeholders and actors hidden in the high corrupt colonial administration? Well, only God knows how juicy the commissions on trading petroleum products are. And this is C. Christian Ntimbane Bomo, and for Undaunted, Civil Societies for Reconciliators.
All right, and right after the break, we told you about self-defense volunteers, how they've discovered hidden oil pipeline in Bakassi Peninsula. Well, right after the break, we'll be bringing you those videos.
Here is the pipeline that is linking to the water. I want to burst, so we need the equipment to burst the pipeline. Yes, we want to burst the pipeline as requested, so we need the equipment to use and burst it. Yep. This is part of the school with some students around. Yeah, yeah. Stakes. Yes, centric position. Yes, so currently right now, still need more stick and more granules with some equipment. That's very important in the work we want to do. Yes, this is my school I told you about with some of my students in the school. So, as you can see, right now, we need more sticks and more granules to support and to do whatsoever we want to do at any time we wish to do it. And the other equipment also very, very important. So the work can get delivered. Stick and granite, very important. Yes. The stick and the granite, the other equipment, carry support. And we are very, very serious in this matter. We need to not support. Very, very seriously. We need to not support. And anyone that is going to support us, we will back up you very fine. Since they are not and all those things that you are disgraced. This is the school. All these my monitor them. Look us well. We are the students. This can prove so.
All right, there you have it. Now moving on with our stories for tonight. Due to war in Amazonia and probably a fear of the global pandemic, COVID-19, we are told that La Republic du Cameroon's ailing president, Paul Biya, was unable to travel out of his treaty palace. Reports have it that he left Yaoundé today for Washington, D.C. to attend the U.S. African Leaders Summit scheduled to take place from 13th to 15th December 2022. According to Cameroon Cord News, Mr. Biya will be stopping over in Geneva, Switzerland, not to condole with Switzerland following the country's trouncing in the World Cup, but to undergo a special steroid session which will enable him to operate in the highly demanding conference in the American capital.
Well, the report goes further to insinuate that over the last decade, Mr. Biya has been surviving on steroids given his poor health condition. Now, he's currently a colony of diseases which requires huge consumption of steroids. Now, according to a resource close to the Unity Palace, President Paul Biya has been depressed in recent times. That's what the report said. And the trip to the American capital is an opportunity for him to step out of his palace and demonstrate to the world that he is still in charge in Yaoundé. Now, President Paul Biya has been said to be the mastermind behind the genocidal onslaught in Amazonia and cannot be seen indiscriminately following with their fellowshipping with the United States. By this, we are reliably informed of different reactions of Southern Cameroon's Amazonians in this regard.
Well, currently, some Southern Cameroons are positioning themselves for a demonstration to receive the dictator in Washington with a clear objective to reassert Amazonians' question and call on the Biden administration to stay even more vigilant in their relationship with the octogenarian Paul Bartolome B. Vondobia. The Secretary of State for Communications and IT, Martin Mungwa, PhD, FASCE, Fellow of the American of Civil Engineers, in this delight has a worded framework for Amazonians. Hear him.
Alert, alert, alert. This is Dr. Martin Mungwa, Secretary of State for Communication and IT for the interim government. Dear Amazonians, and especially those in the United States, we have learned from reliable sources that the head of the genocidal regime in La République du Cameroun, in the name of Paul Biya, will be arriving the United States and Washington, D.C. in particular, tomorrow, December 10th. I call on all Ambazonians of goodwill and even friends of Ambazonia to call their congressmen and tell them that the head of the regime that has been killing Ambazonians mercilessly for the past 6 years will be arriving the United States tomorrow, December the 10th, to meet with President Biden. It is very important at this time to raise awareness about the genocide that is taking place in our homeland. And it is a great moment for the United States law people to make sure that President Biden brings up this matter with Paul Biya and make sure that this genocide that is taking place in our country comes to a stop, and to make sure that there is a meeting between Mr. Biya's government and the interim government, and to make sure in order to bring this genocide to a close. So I am calling on all Ambazonians, especially those resident in the United States, to call their congressmen and make sure that they are alerted about their imminent arrival of Mr. Paul Biya to the United States, Washington, D.C. Thank you. Goodbye. Alert, alert. This is Dr. Martin Mungwa, Secretary of State for Communication and IT for the interim government. Dear Ambassadors, and especially
All right, you're welcome back. Peace is a desire of each and everyone, but not everyone has the ability to directly shape the path that leads to achieving last-longing peace. Though not all can directly divide on whether there should be peace or not, all voices can talk peace and pray for peace.
Well, these voices are of importance, for they are a reminder and a reawakening of the stakeholders that the price the common man is paying as a consequence of conflict is huge and something has to be done. In this light, therefore, Community Initiative for Sustainable Development, coming soon, has brought together CSOs, FBOs, and Bemender city dwellers to talk peace. Will this approach cause those with arms to drop their guns?
Well, the Community Initiative for Sustainable Development Commission on Friday, December 9, 2022, have brought together civil society organization, faith-based organization, Association of Persons with Hearing Impairment, and the Association of Bayam Salams on the theme Promote a Just and Peaceful Society. Now, the coordinator of this NGO, Fontu Michael, gave justification for the organization of such a meeting. Now, he goes on to say, we must raise 100 voices against extreme violence against civilians until peace comes to our land. There are a lot of guns in our towns, and for there to be peace or less killings, guns must be reduced.
Well, he continued by stating that there is a lot of fragmentation. He says, we are here today to raise voices against fragmentation and extreme violence. We need to inculcate the values of peace, inclusion, tolerance, non-violence, and equality. Messages will be sent to the international community, presidency, National Assembly, non-state armed groups, and the diaspora to see reasons why they should give peace a chance, he added. The take-home message from the come together was that on your little corner, talk peace, act peace, and preach peace. Well, tell that to La Republic du Cameroon.
All right, from the Department of Women's Services, we have a message from Ma Patience Abiedu.
Now, the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women was a few days back. She has a message for every woman, and please take a watch.
Fellow Southern Cameroonians, fellow Ambazonians, this is Dr. Patience Abiedu, popularly known as Ma Patience. The International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls was observed on November 25th, 2022. On that day, the 16 Days of Activism campaign was launched to unite in activism to end violence against women and girls. According to the United Nations, I quote, "Violence against women and girls is one of the most widespread, persistent, and devastating human rights violations in our world today, and remains largely unreported due to the impunity, silence, stigma, and shame surrounding it." Quotations closed. The manifestations of violence against women and girls could be physical, sexual, or psychological. And examples include intimate partner violence, sexual violence and harassment, human trafficking, female genital mutilations, and child marriage. Did you know that 5 every hour is the number of girls or women that are killed by someone in their own family? The 16 Days of Activism campaign, which ends today, World Human Rights Day, was a global call to action, recognizing that gender-based violence against women and girls is a fundamental violation of human rights. On this World Human Rights Day, December 10th, 2022, the end of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, let's remember that gender inequality lies at the heart of violence against women and girls. We can achieve gender equality through education, active learning, through conscious decisions, respectful behaviors, and eliminating unconscious bias at home, work, and in the community. We have the power to bring about gender equality in our own lives, work, communities, and the world at large. On behalf of all the women of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, I say Happy World Human Rights Day. As Mrs. Hillary Clinton said in September 1995 in her address to the United Nations Fourth World Conference on Women, human rights are women's rights and women's rights are human rights. In the Ambazonia we are fighting for, women will enjoy the rights to participate fully in all aspects of nation building, and women's rights will be human rights, and human rights will be women's rights. Long live the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, and short live our struggle for recognition.
That was indeed amazing. Once again, good evening, fellow Ambazonians, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Tonight is a special moment when Ambazonians, home and abroad, from every LGA county tier of government are gathering together to make a resounding assertion of their quest for freedom. Ambazonians tonight will be coming together to draft for the federal government, the first of its kind, like you heard the girls of the Undaunted girls talking about. But we are here for a pre-draft show. And before we even plunge into that pre-draft show, I would like to thank all those who are partners, should I say patrons of ABC Amber TV, club members, all those who are supporting us on Facebook and on YouTube, for making sure that for the past 1 year we've broken the record of ABC Amber TV. That is its 5 years of existence. For one long year, ABC Amber TV has not come public to cry for anything. Proof of good management, proof that we have more committed people on the board. And ABC Amber TV masterminded the production of what I'm sure you should have seen some of the videos. It is the Ashwabi. If you want to call it Ashwabi, you can go ahead and call it Ashwabi. But we have Christian it the Watana Wata rapper. This rapper today will be presented to the public for the first time. And resource mobilization, ABT, Amber TV management, and the directorate will make that determination. I am not a marketer of it. And they'll tell you how you can get your piece of the wrapper now. This is Christmas. It's time for you to be dressed in our colors. This is not a flag you're putting on. It's good to put on the flag anyway. It's patriotic. But we want an Ashwabi. And for the first time, the Federal Republic of Ambazonia has an Ashwabi designed and produced by us. Thank the board members. I want to thank the club members. I want to thank our donors for making it possible and for making our platform this relevant. Right after the break, you'll be having me, Barrister Fru Johnson, and SOS Sylvester Zama will kick on to a very vital discussion this evening ahead of the federal draft. Stay tuned. That was amazing. I'm very much aware that you love it. And Barrister Fru Johnson, good evening and welcome. When are you getting your own Ashwabi for the nation?
Thank you, Paddy. Thank you, Paddy. It is now that I'm hearing about Ashwabi, and I think I have a little bit of problem with the word Watana Wata, which comes from an enabler that we all know. I don't know what has ever become of Watana Wata, but when it will be available, we'll be able to have our own. But I wish that you change that name, Watana Wata.
It's just a caption. Yes, we could change it. I know a lot of people have this concern about Prince Jacob, who, like you said, is an enabler. but he did not conceive the name. The name was conceived by the Ambazonian Restoration Forces on the home front. I think
Okay.
Sylvester
All
Zama,
right.
Sylvester, the Ambazonian Restoration Forces at the home front. At the time, they still had 10 guns. They looked into the face of La République du Cameroon and they said, Watana Wata. That's the reason why we're even here tonight. We're here
All
tonight
right. Now I
because
understand.
Wata na Wata, and we are changing our strategy as the oppressor escalates his courage in our home front. That is why the reach the federal draft. So speak to us. I will start with Comrade Zama, who might be leaving us in a few minutes. Please talk to us for why we've missed you on this platform. What is there for us? What is happening with defense? We are aware of what is happening, but then talk to us ahead of the federal capital or the federal government draft.
Yeah, sound.
Yeah, welcome viewers. Thank you for the invite. I think we've been spending a lot of time trying to educate our people regarding the aggression that is being meted on the people of Southern Cameroon. We, as in the Defense Department, we have this core value that we have to fight and fight till we get independence, till we reach Boya. We have to make the enemy understand that a dormant volcanic mountain is never dead. It always arises. And we have to make them to understand that. And our people are resolved that we are not going to stay with them. We are not going to stay in a republic with them, in a federation or a confederation or in whatever capacity. We have to have our people understand that. We've been fighting this fight for 6 years now, and I know every Ambazonian understand there is a fight. There are some of us who are not making that effort to maintain that fight, but we are willing to drown ourselves in the oceans in North Africa or in the deserts or in the Mariana Trenches in Latin America trying to go to greener pastures. The greenest pasture is back home, but we have to fight for it. We have to fight for it in the sense that you do your part. You have to contribute towards this war. You have to maintain the public persona of Amazonia, and you have to keep it going. Because if we don't, we will be a lost generation. I just want to tell everybody that we are asking for your contribution for the federal draft, not because we are going to be the beneficiary of whatever we are trying to conceive, but we want to plant that palm tree where we know we will not be the people to drink the first drink out of that palm tree. It's a fight, and it's a desire of our people to contribute and make that contribution genuinely towards a liberated Amazonia.
I was giving you a close shot at a time when you were cutting off. That's quite amazing there. Yes, by through you are the Attorney General of this government. I've seen you, in spite of who you are, what you did at the home front, your audacity. I've seen you travel with the president from time immemorial into every LGA, every county, and you move along with the president, giving your beats and drafting for every county and every draft day. From a strategic perspective, why the federal draft?
Thank you very much, Paddy. That is thank you very much. That's a very important question. We have been drafting now for 3 years running. And we thought that the part of the draft that was supposed to come to the interim government was not flowing as we expected. And time has come also for us to empower the federal government so that the federal government can step in and on certain projects that will not necessarily be done by the tiers of government. And that is why it is important at this time to empower the federal government, because we need all hands on deck. We need to ignite firepower that La Republic has never seen since this war started. And therefore, we are saying that the draft will continue as it has always been. But we have amended a little bit by saying that we will be drafting every month for the federal government so that the federal government will be empowered to take projects and execute them where the tiers of government may not be able to do that because of the means and the ways of execution. That is why we said, now, maybe the time has come for this fourth year for us to introduce this concept of empowering the federal government to have some funds so that they can develop high power projects that are way and beyond the capacity of the tiers of government. I want to make it very clear here that the draft for the counties and LGAs will continue as it was. The only difference is we have added that every month there will be a draft for the federal government so that to empower the federal government. And that is why we think that this is very important at this stage of the revolution, because La Republique has shown us that they are unwilling to negotiate and that they want to fight. Why don't we also get to them and fight them to leave our territory and increase our modus operandi in such a way that they will find the fire difficult for them to withstand. It is just another way of introducing a method of empowering our federal government to also come into very forcefully into the fight. I know the federal government had carried out some projects, but they were not as significant as what we want to do now, because most especially because the 20% that was supposed to be coming to the federal government was not coming as expected. So that is why the element of empowering the federal government was introduced. It has not done anything to change the draft, the yearly draft that has been taking place with the tiers of government. That is the counties and the LGAs will continue to draft. And Paddy, I want to assure you that I will be accompanying not only the president, but also the tiers of government to continue to draft. We will also do, as long as we are living and breathing, we will continue to fund this revolution so that we can have our homeland back. Like SOS Zama has said, it is time for us to step up.
That's amazing. I'm going to come back to you, Comrade Zama, on this issue. I know if we are getting a federal government draft, it's not just about drafting money. It's about strategy. It's about going into the drawing board or into the situation room and examining the change. The president said sometime last week that Cameroon has changed their tactics towards this war, and we are changing ours without any compromise of strategic information. Can you tell us what significant difference this federal draft will possibly create on the ground?
Thinking before, the LGS were supposed to form part of the federal system, and the LGS are not providing enough of that funding, given that there are some executions that cannot be done with the know-how of the local government areas and the counties. The federal structure is supposed to do that. And given the fact that we were a little bit lax in that aspect in terms of the receivables coming in from those different quarters, our strategy could not have been aggressive as it could have been in terms of defending homeland. So the structural change right now is something that's going to really change the dynamics on the ground, and it's going to be a new ground for our people and our soldiers on the ground to be able to do what we have always wanted to do. These monies that we're going to be having is basically straight towards defending homeland. And for those naysayers who are back there saying, no, this has happened, that has happened, in wars and in other stuff, there are a lot of different things and a lot of accountability issues in most wars. We've seen in American government where a whole tank column disappears in the desert. Nobody knows, nobody can account for it. It's not that it's been stolen or sold, it's just sometimes misplaced accounting. In our situation, we want to assure our people that the accountability aspect of this government is so impeccable now that it's very difficult for us to do, or people to do anything that are not according to standards. Given the parameters and all the structures we've put in, the guardrails that we've put in the accounting process of collections for this war, it's nobody's treasury to steal and run. We have a case in court now that is affecting some of our citizens who decided to do just that. And as soon as we get those rules, we will have to come back to our people and say, yes, see how accountable we are. We are good stewards and we are fiduciaries for this, for the citizens of Amazonia, and we look forward to helping our people get independence, get legitimate and unencumbered independence.
That is really powerful. We're looking forward to our people getting legitimate and incumbent independence. That is now we may distract ourselves a little bit and come back. You've seen Fru and I, we had this discussion earlier on. Mr. Bia, after close to 3 years staying in his A2D palace, can now move out. We made to understand that he's one of the invitees for the economic summit organized by Biden. And Amazonians have reacted in diverse ways. Some have made statements to discard, to undermine. Some are thinking it is an opportunity for us as a people to make our voice heard now that there will be high gravity of the media in Washington. Some are thinking that though we are in the corridors doing the right thing we're supposed to do, there should be some protestations. The Secretary of State for Communications and IT has set forth a framework as to how those resident in the United States of America can reach out to men in authority. But then there's this question that can be done without Biden inviting Bia. So from your savoir and understanding, Barrister Flo, I'd like to know from you, scoping through this whole thing, what do you think we as a people should prioritize at this time?
Well, as it concerns what you have just mentioned, the arrival of this dictator, this genocidal dictator in the center of Africa to Washington, we should be very careful. We are a government. We are a government, the interim government of the Southern Cameroons and Amazonia. So if we go to demonstrate as a government, we'll be giving Mr. Bia some credence. But we will also want our people to go, if they can, to go and demonstrate. We will not, as a government, organize demonstration. No, that's not what governments do. Governments don't organize demonstrations. Dissatisfied citizens organize demonstrations. And therefore, if citizens organize themselves and go and demonstrate and shame Mr. Bia for even thinking about coming to the land of freedom, which is the United States, I think it's advisable that we do. But if you are looking for this interim government, which is a government, to organize a demonstration, it cannot happen because governments That is not the function of government. And if we do that, we will be acting like we are discontent with the management of Mr. Bia's government. We are no longer part of his government. Why should we be discontent with what he does? All we are saying is that our citizens who don't want the war, who have been on this on the tail end of receiving the atrocities of the war, should go and demonstrate without necessarily asking this government, this interim government, to go down and have its cabinet or the president make speeches. No, no, that's not what government does. Government does diplomacy. Government does what government does best is governing, and that is what we are doing. And it would be unfair, unthinkable for a government to organize demonstrations against a dictator coming from Central Africa. This is a matter for all Africans to demonstrate against that kind of dictatorship, that kind of genocidal dictatorship that is taking place in our territory. And we'll be encouraging all Ambazonians, if they can, to go and shame Mr. Bia. But this government will not issue an order or itself participating in any kind of demonstration. I hope the distinction I've made is quite clear, Paddy.
Yes, Barrister Fru, I must say that I enjoy what you said, because that is strategy in wartime. If I would encapsulate what you've said in a phrase, we call that plausible deniability. Perhaps you want to chip in into that, Comrade Zama.
I think the idea we should as a people understand is the dynamics of power. We do not know what the agenda of that meeting is with President Biden. We know the U.S. interest is always going to be paramount in these conversations, but we have to bring ourselves into the forefront of this discussion, because what America is interested in the Gulf of Guinea is what is beneath the soils of Amazonia. We might not necessarily be at the center of that conversation today, but we should be asserting ourselves into that conversation henceforth. We've been doing that for the past 6 years in every quarters that we have. That's why we have the temporary protective status given to Amazonians and some of the French-speaking Cameroonians who are here in the United States. We have the resolutions, I think it's 486 or so, if I can remember, that was passed by the U.S. Senate. We've been at work with this, and we've educated the American political and elites on what is going on in Amazonia. We will have to see if their conscience is as good as President Biden's was when during the apartheid era, when he stood up for the ANC and for the people of South Africa. I know he's had his way. He's a good man, and I know he will carry up those things. He's somebody who does his diplomacy quietly behind the scene, and is not as rambunctious as a former president. Bert, as Ambazonians, we have to carry our part. We have to show our own belonging in this society, because we have to participate. America is a participative democracy, where if you do not participate, you do not really benefit from the actual returns of that political system.
I like the way the both of you are speaking, gentlemen, and that's what is beautiful having you on this panel. Barrister Fru is actually not denying the aspect of protesting on the street, but he's saying government should not be directly involved in it, and which I call plausible deniability. That's a strategy in war. And now you're saying that we as a people should make sure that our voices are heard. So, straightforwardly, from your perspective, if you're in Washington today, how would you make your voice heard if you are one of the inhabitants in Washington, or perhaps you're in the United States now and you want to make your voice heard? Dr. Mungwa has provided a framework from government position calling Ambazonians to contact those in their catchment of authority, congressmen and senators. Now, specifically, Barrister Fro, talk to us. If you would want to make your voice heard in this matter, what will you do as an individual, and what will you encourage others to do?
As an individual, you know that I'm a member of government. I would act like a member of government. But as an ordinary Ambazonian, I will take my flag, the Ambazonian flag, put it on my soldiers, and I'm there at the airport or at the or wherever, or in DC, wherever Bear is appearing, and protest against him. But as a member of government, I will not be officially or in any capacity involving the interim government in any kind of demonstration. That's exactly what I'm saying. I am saying that individual Ambazonians, while you are calling your senators and your members of government, if you think that you can do more by getting to where this dictator is arriving, or wherever he is going to show up in public, it is better to make his life not as comfortable as he thinks it should be. So it's a plus for us if you do that. But we should always bear in mind that we are a government. Those of us who are members of government should know that we are government, and we must respect the government directives as it concerns some of these issues. That is exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
I don't know whether I can make a distinction right now. You call Barrister Fru. I don't know whether I can make a distinction between myself as an Ambazonian and myself as a member of the cabinet. So we have to be very careful about that. But if I take off the coat of the government and put it somewhere and carry my flag and my T-shirt, I will be able to tell Mr. Beer to go eat shit anywhere, anytime. Because I've lost a lot of relatives. All of us, there's no Ambazonian who has not lost anybody in this war. And we should not make Mr. Beer feel so comfortable in this country. This is a land that allows you to demonstrate against a government that you don't like, or you don't care, or government policies that you don't like. You cannot do that in Yaoundé, neither can you do that in anywhere in La République du Cameroon. And therefore, this is the only opportunity for individuals, without involving the interim government, please, because we should be seen to be acting like a government. I want to join issues with SOS Zama by saying that diplomacy should be in top gear right now, because we have to insert ourselves into whatever discussion is taking place, even if not directly, but at least at the end of the day, we know that this is what has happened, this is what has not happened. Okay? That is why our diplomats and those who are working in diplomacy should be alert and get the best they can get from this whole charade that has been organized in Washington. I'm not going to question how the government of America organized and brought dictators in here, but it is their prerogative as a government. So we too will have our prerogative as a government to not to get involved directly publicly against the decisions that have already been taken. Thank you.
Yeah, that's not what you just said there, encouraging Ambazonians to take advantage of the legal framework of the United States
Yes.
of America and make their voices heard. And this brings us, Comrade Zama, it brings it I would say it crashes old wounds, brings to remembrance what happens or what happened in our homeland in September 22nd, 2017, when peaceful protesters, women and children, went out with peace plans to seek for their voices to be heard, and they were bulleted on a single day with helicopter gunshots, military weaponry that was offered to Cameroon by the United States of America. More than 300 Ambazonians were gunned down. Ambazonians, for almost the first time in their history, in one day, saw blood like never before. Prior to that time, there had been killings. Prior to that time, there have been arrests. Prior to that time, we had a lot of prisoners, hundreds and almost thousands of prisoners of conscience of war, because their voices were supposed to be shut down. Now it brings and increases the pressure on those who are thinking of doing something and those who are in the position of authority. And I want to ask you this question again as a member of the core of self-defense of this interim government. I wish I'll be having a one-on-one with the vice president to talk to the Amazonian people as a way of inspiration. We hope that as we broadcast the live Zoom meeting, we're going to have the president talk to the people and the vice president give to us maybe snippets of the strategy that is behind this movement, behind this federal capital draft. With this in mind, again, I want to ask you, Comrade Zama, why the federal capital draft? Because we have people on the Zoom that were not connected at the time you're responding. Just talk so that they can participate. We have people already connecting. I just connected Zoom now, and that's why I'm asking you that question again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if I can repeat what I said earlier, we have to understand that Boya is like the heartbeat of Amazonia. We have to defend the capital. We have to liberate the capital. And we can't do that without the funding of our citizens. We have to understand that as a people, we have to sacrifice for future generations. We are fighting this war because we don't want our children to go through what we went through. I went to school in East Cameroon. I grew up basically in Yaoundé all my life. I know what that system does to people who are English-speaking citizens of that country. We don't want our children to go through that. We don't want our families, our parents, to be killed for just questioning what they're supposed to question. We don't want our families to go to Yaoundé to go look for their retirement benefits, which they ultimately lose and probably lose their lives looking for that. That should not happen. It should be automatic. And we grew up in a system where inland revenues in former West Cameroon, my grandfather had his retirement and he will come. He retired one weekend and the next month he had a check coming in from the Internal Revenue Service. We are used to some order. We have not had that order in 60 years that we've lived with East Cameroon. So we are asking our people that it's imperative that if you do not want it for yourself, if you do not want to do this for Ambazonia, think about the people who are being killed. Think about the parents. Think about the young children who are dying in the deserts because they think Cameroon is hell. Think about the fact that these kids die on the sea. They die in the forest in Latin America. They do a lot because of what the conditions are on the ground. We cannot try to go to greener pastures. We have to tend our own pasture. And that pasture is very green. It just needs a little bit of tending. And that tending comes from you and me, who is out here trying to support this war. We are not trying to do that because we are trying to get something. but we want to look for our children. We don't want our children to go through this. And it's incumbent on us. We cannot be cowards anymore. We cannot push this fight to the next generation of Ambazonians. We must do it this time, and we must do it in a clean cut, umbilical cut from these people. Like they say in Bamenda, you have to cut the tongue. Once you cut the umbilical cord, that umbilical cord and the child separates. We have to do that, and we have to do that with a sharp knife.
Thank you very much. You want to add something to that, Barrister Fru, please?
Yes,
go ahead.
I want to specifically talk about the federal draft. We have been drafting for the last 3 years, and this 4th year we are changing the strategy to empower the federal government, so that the federal government will play its role now effectively and bring more fire to bear on the ground. And because we have not been able to receive the funding that we're supposed to be receiving from LGAs after the draft, some LGAs up to today have not paid their 20% to the federal government. So the federal government was incapacitated financially to take those serious projects that the tiers of government cannot, with their resources and their know-how, cannot carry that out. Therefore, this year we have introduced the concept of the federal government draft every month to make sure that the government has at least resources. The central government, that is the federal government, has resources to carry out very important projects that are envisaged for this term of the firepower. I want to make it clear here that the concept of the draft has not changed. The resource mobilization will continue to work on the draft program from county to county. And me talking here, all of us talking here, we should know that the concept of drafting has not changed. We will continue to follow our tiers of government and draft. But what I'm saying is that the federal government needs to be empowered to come in and help, to come in and put out some projects that LGAs and counties on their own will be unable to do so. That's why for this 4th year, and given what Mr. Bears has done, given what the La Republique is trying to do, we need to step up firepower on the ground. Let them know that fire is coming. Fire is coming not only from the LGAs and counties, but also from the federal government.
Comrade Zama, anytime you want to leave, I know you're supposed to leave, you have an appointment, just indicate, because we will carry this discussion right on top of the hour. But you realize that Barrister Fru is hitting, his punchlines are hitting the nail on the head. We are at a critical time. As we speak, 3 of our comrades have been indicted, and the claims are manipulative. The word self-defense was avoided, and we had the so-called or the supposed indictment being dressed with words like kidnapping. And while we are trying to change that narrative, one would expect a government like ours to maybe avoid such discussions. But this is the government coming out audaciously, looking into the eyes of the international community this Saturday and the home front and Yaoundé, and telling them we are drafting for self-defense. There are those who argue that the government should get involved with self-defense by employing the strategy of plausible deniability. But we have the government of the President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, Dr. Sako. From day one, he took over office. He told the world, this is the era of self-defense. I don't know if Barrister Fru should take this question or you should take it. But how will this audacious move affect the ongoing litigation? Barrister Comrade Zama, try as much as you can, and then we'll have Barrister Fru react to it.
Well, I know I'm not going to look at it in the deep dive like Barrister Fruit can do. But I think we live in a community or in a society where the rule of law and um, is in rule here. The United States brought a case against three of our citizens, and they're going to have their day in court to prove the merit of their accusations. Even though they are trying to avoid the fact that it's self-defense, we are not the first group that have sought independence from a base in America. We have the Irish who did that. We have the Palestinians who've been doing that, the Eritreans, uh, the people of the Polisario. It's it's so it cannot be named. They are endless. But we are not going to hide the fact that we are trying to do defense for our people. America, one of the basic principles that America has used to go into every single war since World War II, World War One, the First World War, America went in there because of the treatment of the Jews. When an escapee came out from Srebrenica, one of those concentration camps, and showed how horrible they were, America went into that war to defend humanity. America went to war in Iraq when they said Saddam Hussein were taking out kids from incubators and throwing them out to die. America, despite they used the fact that there was a nuclear bomb plant in Baghdad, which they never proved, which they never found, they went in there based on that premises by converting Americans to accept the fact that the humanitarian catastrophe like that should not exist. America went to that war. They've been killing thousands and thousands of people over these last 6 years. No nation has looked us in the eyes and said, yes, we will help us. We will help Amazonia. It's incumbent upon Amazonians to do that help. We have to help our people, even though sometimes they may threaten us with jail terms and expulsion and all those. But we have to understand somebody has to stand up for humanity. And we are doing that. We are not saying that there are no rogue elements in this fight. Yes, they are. And as I said earlier, in every war, there are rogue elements. Some of them we cannot control. Some of them are paramilitaries that are set up just to create such a situation. But as I said, in this situation where our citizens are under indictment, yes, the United States will prove its case in court, and if it's viable, they'll be prosecuted or sentenced by their own peers in the court of law. Until that time comes, we will defend our people and we will defend them tightly.
Barrister Fro, please.
Yes, that was a very good response from Eso Ezama. But let me also add and say that self-defense is a universally accepted right. It's a fundamental right. And you remember that a conventional army of a government called La République du Cameroon was declared war and moved its troops into our territory when we had nothing in the hand. I cannot begin to tell you how many people died in Manu, on that first deployment of the La République troops. And in those days, our people were fighting with cutlasses, sticks, and nothing else. And Odeshi, I may add, and nothing else. And you can
Fro,
imagine.
you're even too fast of it. You're too fast. I was born and raised in Bamenda. I grew up in Bamenda, growing up from a community of peacemakers. And this is what I saw. I was not even 10 years old when helicopters were throwing tear gas in my classroom. That's in Small Mancon. I went to primary school in Small Mancon simply because a Southern Cameroonian won an election and people were protesting. So in my classroom, a boy less than 10 years old was having to inhale tear gas. I grew up seeing my elder brothers that would go out in the evening and perhaps they don't have ID cards and they are molested by gendarmes. As a little boy, the sight of a gendarme was you will fear a gendarme more than you will even be afraid of God. The gendarme was like Satan. In fact, we were calling the gendarme what later we started calling red cap. We called them Satan because of the cruelty. And when we back came in 2016, I was saying that you have their gendarmes acting as the term he actually used as forces of occupation. It was just a resonation of the facts on the ground. We have seen everything. And unfortunately for us at that time, there was no media. Like today, our generation has social media and everybody is a reporter. Hundreds and even thousands of Southern Cameroonians were disappeared. I know of where I grew up. Most of the young men who protested against the rigging of that election, we're told some of them are in prison, and we have not seen most of them today. They were disappeared.
Yes,
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I was answering the question legally to tie it with the present matter in the American courts.
Yeah.
I also remember the helicopter gunships in Boya and Bamenda on the 1st of October 2017. I was on the ground, and you will not believe these are American-made, American-supplied helicopters that were brought to mow down our young people as a result of the demonstration. They were with empty hands. What I am trying to say is that the first prong of our defense on the question of financing our self-defense,
Self-defense initiative, yeah.
yes, which is the first prong of the indictment, and also this question of money laundering, which I don't understand how you can money launder your own money if you decide to help and defend your people who are being mowed down by a conventional army. You're accused of financing a group of people to kill Cameroon soldiers. We have no arms. Up to today, I don't know. The Ambazonian Restoration Forces don't traffic arms. We raise the money, we contribute the money. It is our money from our sweat. We are not laundering any money. All that is self-defense. Now, the second prong of the case is this issue of kidnapping and ransom taking. We are not going to talk about that because we deny that we are not involved in all
It
what
is
they
not
say.
the policy of this
But
government.
if the prosecution brings in witnesses who say that they were kidnapped at the instructions of this interim government, particularly the three members of government, because let's not forget, those three members that have been indicted are members of the tiers of government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, acting in their capacity as members of government. And I want to make it very clear that since the 1st of October, we have declared La République du Cameroon no longer the sovereign power to say anything about the laws that take place in Ambazonia. Therefore, what this indictment is saying is that we are prosecuting members of government for defending their people. Which law applies in the Southern Cameroons now? It is our law. It is the laws of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia as it then was. The Southern Cameroon as it then was. La République du Cameroon has no laws on us. They are the ones instead taking ransom by taxing people in our territory and collecting money by force. Now, the prosecution will have to produce to us those people that they claim that we kidnapped and took money. That these three people kidnapped and took money and shared. So I am saying that indictment is very simple to defend. As a lawyer, I'm talking now like a lawyer. But I'm not also very sure what is going to happen. But the lawyers whom we have hired, they will first of all do what they call opposition limiting litis, which means what? It means that we object to your indictment and we are calling on the court to dismiss it outrightly because of this, which is what is going to happen. The second prong of that is that I would prefer to go on trial so that it's Ambazonia that is being tried. We want to bring this struggle, all the genocide that has taken place in our territory by this conventional army to the American people. They let them be the judge. That is what this trial is going to do to us. La Republica shot itself on the foot, and we must take it and we must defend. We must tell the world what is happening to our people. It's an opportunity to tell the world. But let me also say this. I like this United States because there is separation of powers. The legislative already knows our case. That's why you have those resolutions that were passed, especially the resolution 684 that was passed by the U.S. Senate. The executive also knows our case because, of course, the State Department follows our case. All the diplomats follow our case. We have been making our presentations and so on. But the judiciary now has an opportunity to know exactly what happened. Because the judiciary has no instructions to take from the executive nor the legislature. They are just doing their work. Somebody must have brought a case and they have to act. So the matter has been brought into the American courts by a sealed indictment. And what is a sealed indictment? Our people should understand that a sealed indictment, they can indict you without knowing, but when they come to your house, they take it, they open it there and read it to you and take you in to court. And it's the court that will either grant you bail or whatever. That is what they call
it. The court that will make a determination as
that is what they call a sealed indictment. It's not like you have committed an offense and the police come and arrest you, book you, and lock you up and then charge you. No, this is a sealed indictment by a grand jury in Kansas City, and somebody must have brought that up. So they have to prove beyond the reasonable doubt that those three members of government had kidnapped somebody and took money from them and shared the money. Until they bring that proof, the second trunk of this defense will have to wait until the trial. But we will have to make a presentation of a summary dismissal of this case, which I don't like because the trial will not go on, and consequently, American people will not know what is going on. Politically, it will not be good for us to have it dismissed, but
something that I enjoy with the interim government stand, the interim government legal advice and approach and energy towards this is the argument of the legality and authority over our land. Now, but that's not my question to you, Comrade Zama. My question to you is, seeing the government that you're serving your people through during such a time, coming as one, the government taking leadership, denying that this indictment must not be treated as individual cases, but the government is, in spite of whatever consequences, we are seeing a government with full functioning structures, taking responsibility and willing to take the stakes or whatever it will entail. A government proactively already putting together resources. How does it make you feel now that you are also handling the same responsibilities, or at least or almost the same responsibilities some of these individuals were handling? How do you feel?
Well, it's not a question of how we feel. It's a question of understanding the dynamics of the American legal system. So far as we are working within that framework of the American legal system and the rules that bind us, all of us together, we don't have to have any fear. And I tell people we don't have to be worried. Um, as I said, we have had people who've used this revolution to be their piggy bank where they can pick up and go and do whatever they like. Yes, but as members who are indicted, I know these people. I talk with them on a daily basis. And I don't see anything that could have happened or they have could have done that would have merited this indictment. But as he said, Barrister Fru said, it was a sealed indictment and somebody must have brought the complaint. In the United States system, the defendant will have to face his accuser and they will have to prove their point. That's the good thing in this society. I don't have a worry at all with what is going on. We have to put ourselves laser focused on liberating our people, on defending our people. And that's why we are here today to talk about drafting for the federal capital. And it's just part of that. We have to defend our people and we will do whatever we can in our modest means to defend them, even if they are brought to trial in foreign courts.
By implication, you're saying that the draft of today is an audacious statement that Amazonians will be making, that no matter what, they are ready to get going. Well, we'll be having a very short break. I'm sure for those who started.
I don't think your word about audacious. It's not a question of audaciousness. It's something that it's ingrained in us. We, given where we come from, families, we help neighbors, and this is just that extension of that desire to help our own people. It's no, we are not
So
challenging
I'll
anybody.
rather use the word categoric statement.
Yeah, we are not challenging anybody, but we will have to do what we must do.
Yes.
That's just the nature of things.
So it's a categoric statement then?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay, for those who started watching us, I don't know when resource mobilization determines that we will have to transition into the Zoom, we will automatically stop this program. But for those who started watching us, I'm sure you would have seen the promo we have done for the rapper. It comes like a Christmas message. The rapper that ABC has masterminded the production for the nation. The authorities that be will determine how you can get your peace. But as we transition back into the newsroom to get a brief report on Cardinal Tumi and how it benefits us today, let's get the short break. Stay tuned.
All right, welcome back. Now, for those who are still doubting the Southern Cameroon's truth, this also comes to justify the IG's claim about the man Cardinal Tumi.
Well, just like Dr. Martin Mungwa would say, even though dead, he is alive as the best justifier Amazonians have. This video here is courtesy of Equinas TV.
There's a problem.
No, the form of the state.
The form of the state. You know, in our questionnaire to Anglophones, we try to influence the Anglophone, but we did not succeed. Therefore, it shows how deep the problem is.
When you say you try to influence,
we try to influence.
How?
Good question. When we said, what form of government do you think can solve this problem? Federation, for example. Decentralization, as we are trying to live it now. I think just 5 people reacted out of 1,000. 69% of Anglophones said absolute, the word they used, many use was absolute separation. That is to say, cessation. What? Who was taken aback?
Secession was not on the questionnaire. You had federalism and decentralization.
Yes.
And they ignored the two.
But then we said, have you any other proposition to make? We left it open. Have you other proposition? But many said in the questionnaire, acting on outside the questionnaire, said we should have proposed a referendum. They said, no, a referendum is not a form of state, form of government.
And when you look at that reaction, what do you read within the lines? What will you conclude is the stand of?
We drew the conclusion. We drew the conclusion because we have a document now, the causes, the propositions of those who reacted to our questionnaire, about 1,000 people, and then our own, what we think. For those who reacted to our questionnaire, 69% are convinced that if we want to love each other, that is to say, if the Anglophones and Francophones want to live as brothers and sisters, absolute separation on the level of government, that is important.
And that is what sounds like a taboo.
Our position is that everything should be put on the table. There should be no taboo. That's our own position. But not that it is our own, not that we are saying that we should absolute separation, but we say whatever the opinion of some, let us listen to him. But
Secession should be all of discussion.
Yes.
The national dialogue.
Let them try to convince us. If they convince us, we should take it. If it's convincing. That is why I think personally.
Are you saying that if the people are standing for secession convincingly present their point of view, President should have separate Cameroon?
Of course.
Is it feasible?
It's possible since it is human. It's not the law of God. We were not that. You know, we were separate. Why not? We were.
Do you think that separation is going to solve this problem? Personally, do you think that separation can solve this problem?
Of course.
Fellow
Thanks,
Amazonians,
excellent.
ladies and
Excellent.
gentlemen, that was Cardinal Wingum Christian Tumi a few days ago. And this is a history that has been written, recorded, saved, taped. Nobody will delete it from us. We have it recorded, kept, and
And,
just talk
and
to us. I don't think I have a question. Please
let me
talk.
add something. Let me add something
Yes,
there.
go ahead.
Cardinal Tumi said that thing about 3 or 4 years ago. Today, if you ask our people, that 69% has gone to about 98%. That's all I wanted to add.
Comrade Zama, please. Perhaps you want to. He has added. Maybe you want to spice.
I've said, and I'll say it again. When you're thirsty for water, only water can quench your thirst, and
Correct.
only liberty will do for us. Only total independence will do for Amazonia.
Correct.
Cardinal Tumi might have tweaked the question to trick everybody, but people knew what they had to choose, even though they decided to insert complete independence in his survey that he never surveyed for. Um, it's a work in progress, and it will suffice. We will win, and we will have an independent Amazonia. We have to stay the course, and this is why we do what we do. This is why we come on this program. Paddy is on air all the time. At 2 o'clock is up, 3 o'clock is up, day in, day out. For those of you who are back home who think that you are suffering and we are not, some of us don't have heat in our house. It's not because we can't afford it, but sometimes we have to save. I can tell some of you guys out there that I've not used my dryer in my house for 3 or 4 years now because I have to contribute whatever I have to do to support our neighbors, to support our families back home in this avalanche and in this fight against the enemy. And it's not only sacrifices that we have. You put your money where your mouth is. If you want independence, you have to sacrifice for it. Nobody gives you independence. You take it. If you look at all the countries that have had independence, even the mighty America had to fight for it. The French have to fight for it. That's why you hear names like Joan of Arc, who fought against the Britons to liberate France. Or we have Alexander, who fought to gain lands that his parents could not. Please don't look at what our parents did not do. Look at what you can do today. And stop blaming our people. They were less educated than we are today, and they were less informed than we are today. We have a whole trove of archives that tells us what the intrigue was behind for us not to have had full-fledged independence. We know what did happen. So it's incumbent on us to repair that. It's incumbent on us to do what we must do, to liberate our people, to defend our people, to support each other. And no amount of fright. Of course, the bully will always say that I'll do this. I did this yesterday. I can do this. We have to go beyond that. Tackle the bully, and we will be independent in a shorter time than most think.
Yeah, and I tell my friends, particularly the ones in Boya, some of them are musicians. I tell them that history will not forgive you for looking into the eyes of Ambazonians during this time and ignoring it, either in the rhymes and the rhythms of your music or your poetry or your cinema or whatever. And some would tell me, why tell me they ground you nobody talk? I said, but you knew me and you know why I left. At least if you are not, for wisdom's sake, you think you cannot talk like we are talking in the diaspora, it will be better for you to stay quiet than to connive with the oppressor, either by making professions that assault us as a people. Ambazonians got vexed a few days ago seeing one guy who called himself Full Dennis putting on the green, red, yellow flag. It's important for Ambazonians to know that the green, red, yellow flag is a betrayal of an experimental relationship that we came into. It's a betrayal. The green, red, yellow one star. It's a betrayal. It's an insult. It's a clear evidence of the fact that they wanted to annihilate and assimilate us. So if you were not informed before, you have been informed now. Your reaction now will be taken into account. Barrister Fu, I'm sure you're bubbling. You want to say something?
Yes, Paddy, when I see a young Amazonian with a green, red, yellow, I cry. I cry because look at me and my age, fighting to make sure that the children that I'm going to leave behind will have their homeland to go to. I left a lucrative practice of law in Douala. I'm here in exile, cleaning all kinds of shit in order to survive in this system. And I'm contributing my share. All what I work, I think I contribute more than 40-50% to this struggle. And what am I doing? From a prominent lawyer to a laborer here. And I see a young man for whom I'm fighting, adoring the green, red, yellow, and dancing about the World Cup and dancing about La République du Cameroon. It makes me shed tears. That notwithstanding, as long as we are alive, we have to fight to make sure that our children have their homeland, a land that they call their own, where they will not be discriminated against. Can you imagine? I work my whole life training people, sending people to school, having them come out of the university and they are riding motorcycles. And I'm still alive fighting to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And I see that very young person on a motorcycle with a green, red, yellow flag jubilating in the streets of Douala or Yaoundé or wherever, even in Boya, like you just mentioned. It's traumatic. It's traumatic. It is traumatic to say the least. We're here, all of us here, Ezama has just told you that he has not put on his dryer for the last 3 years because that money is now being channeled for the fight. Somebody will ask, let anybody who wants to investigate find out what is Barrister Fru doing in America. I'm telling you now that I work in a group home and I'm a laborer. And I earn below the poverty level. And yet, I make sure that if I'm eating 50 cents, 50 cents should go for the struggle so that my children will not go through what I'm going through. And I see some of the children carrying Cameroon flag. It's pathetic, to say the least. That if that is meant to discourage people like us, no, it will not happen. Because our generation, my generation that is still alive, will not see it happen. We are going to deliver this country to our children. That's why I made a statement at the time. Cardinal Tumi made that his study, which he influenced. He said it himself, which influenced.
Yes,
It's about
that is something I don't want to talk about. Yeah.
Today it's about 98%.
If I may,
I'll give you the chance
here.
to add. I'll give you the chance. Cardinal Tumi, so that you add to this as you're interjecting. Cardinal Tumi said unapologetically, unwaveringly, on camera, that they intentionally wanted to influence the opinion
Correct.
of the Southern Cameroonian people. Comrade Zama, please. You can add what you wanted to add.
Yes, I think Barrister there are a lot of these young people who don't get it. And I say an addiction is a very traumatic thing. Sometimes some people try to quit without a withdrawal, they die because there's no treatment for it. We have to gradually, it's incumbent on us to educate our people. It's incumbent on us to educate the Francophones. There's a lack of understanding. And some of these kids, they don't know. They've not really heard already the history of Southern Cameroon. It's not known. We have this convoluted history that gives them a false security of being a citizen of Cameroon. We acquire citizen of Cameroon by the association of Southern Cameroon to East Cameroon. And that citizenship surely was lost with them annulling that relationship. We have to continue without rest to get our people to understand the diabolic and the really evil system they are in. Because it seems like our people are scared of the heavenly hell that they are than the actual hell that they are in. And that's the problem we have. We have to make them to understand. We cannot benign them, or if they've chosen to be a citizen of East Cameroon, so be it. When Bangladesh separated from Pakistan, there were people who decided to go to Bangladesh, and there were those who decided to stay in Pakistan. The same thing in India, the same thing in Eritrea and in Ethiopia. Same thing in North and South Sudan, or Sudan and Southern Sudan. So I think rather than us bemoaning that fact that there are people who are going to be recluses that stay within La Republique because they're either degenerates who decide to stay in that system, we should continue our effort to educate our people. We should continue our effort to educate Cameroonians in general, because if our lack of understanding is some of the problems that we have. Some of them don't know. When they realized that they were calling us roaches and kankas and all whatnot, they should be killed. Yeah, there are some people among them who've understood what it is to feel that way when they went abroad. They realized they were a minority abroad. They were not Francophones abroad. They realized the Anglophones or the Ambazonians or Southern Cameroonians are their support structures when they are abroad. So we have to make those lineages and have people to understand that we are not bigots, that we are going to be exclusively Ambazonian and disregard whatever they want to be. If they want to be a citizen of La Republique, that's fine. Let them be. And let them understand that we will be exclusively for Anglophones, exclusively for Ambazonians, and that's going to be our case. We are not going to force people to be, but we will educate people why we are doing what we are doing.
Yes, Paddy.
I like
Paddy,
the
let me
termin-
say
I like
this.
the
No,
terminology.
Paddy, let me
Yes,
add
Paddy.
something.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
In spite of what I just said, I am very proud of the young people who are on the ground, sleeping in the bushes, dying every day, sleeping in the bushes, and fighting for us to have our homeland.
Mhm.
The same young people, the friends of the people, the person I just described carrying a Cameroon flag,
And they're
he
being
is
betrayed by
dying.
some of their friends.
Yeah, that is the paradox of this whole thing. The very young people are the ones that are delivering that will deliver the Federal Republic of Ambazonia to all of us. All my regret is that please don't provoke the young people who are in the bushes and dying, and don't provoke the older people like us with the carrying Cameroon flag and letting the world see you. That is all. That is my regret. Secondly, as Zama has just said, if you are my child and you are below the age that I still have control over you, you are not going to be La Republique. But if you are above the age that I don't have any control over you, you can go to wherever you want to go. But note that you cannot claim citizenship of Ambazonia anywhere in the world. We are going to be a state that recognizes dual citizenship, many citizenships as possible, except that of La République du Cameroon. Let me make myself clear. You can carry many passports as you wish, but please if you carry a passport of La République du Cameroon, you are not an Ambazonian. Because you know what? We have lost more than 45,000 of our citizens to the guns of La République du Cameroon. Both the old, the young, the babies. Buddy, when you need to watch that video where a child was dropped in boiling oil. You need to watch that video where a child was burnt in a house and the father carried the child's body of that child.
The child fried in palm oil was done in my village. The parents of this baby came from Krugwe, because you have a lot of people coming from Krugwe,
Yes, I know that.
coming down to do palm oil in Kendem village. And so they heard the gendarme coming and running into the bush. They forgot the baby in what we call Mbaka. And a Bulu actually picked this baby
and
crying and put in a hot on a. In fact, that's not a story to narrate today.
And you see the child body. You see the child body of a child in Batibu, burnt in a house. A child that was left on the bed, burnt in the house, and the father carried and was crying. You see the child that was more down in the car of her mother going to drop her in school in Boya. Caroline Ondale. The same thing happened in Bamenda. How do you expect old people like us to live with that kind of tragedy? And for me to see a young person like Paddy carrying a La République flag and dancing in Boya with it, it's pathetic.
And this is the message. You're watching us in Boya and in Bamenda right now. These are some of the images we are bringing back to your memory. We like you to sit in your room, look at yourself on the mirror, and ask yourself this question. What are you doing to the families that have lost Carolois? To the families who have seen their own babies fried? What are you doing to those who picked up or went on the streets to protest for your own right, your own dignity and integrity, and their lives were cut short? What are you thinking about thousands of our people? For the facts, we have some of our Amazonians that have been in the dungeons in La République du Cameroon for decades. It's in the books. You know of those who have been arrested from 2016 where it escalated. But we're talking about Southern Cameroonians that have been in La République du Cameroon dungeons for decades. If Akwanga did not escape, if Fongoji Dinka did not escape, these gentlemen would have still been in captivity. Yep. Now, if we do not win this war, forget about, if we do not win this war, there are very high chances that in Naira 10, the Mancho Bibixi, by the time he finishes his 15-year term or whatever, they will increase, they will look for a reason to keep him there. Else, he will choose to compromise. Or perhaps he leaves that place sick. They are not normal. These people can only be normal if we win this war and look for a safer place. And I like the way the president puts it. He's talking to some of us that are coming today to make sure that we draft for the federal government. He says that all we have to do is this draft. Perhaps if we lose this war today, those who are behind bars might never ever see sunlight, because they are waiting for the lamplight that we are shining in the diaspora to be quenched, so that all of them will just be slaughtered overnight.
Is it not time for us to join the draft? Is it not time for us to join the draft?
I'm waiting for resource mobilization and the authorities to tell us. We're actually broadcasting right now, and why I communicate with Nijo to find out what is happening. Let us take a very short break. There is a message on stopping the violence against women that the Secretary of State for Women's Services sent out early this morning. Let's take that as a chill pill and let me find out what is happening. Stay tuned.
Fellow Southern Cameroonians, fellow Ambazonians, this is Dr. Patience Abiru, popularly known as Ma Patience. The International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls was observed on November 25th, 2022. On that day, the 16 Days of Activism campaign was launched to unite in activism to end violence against women and girls. According to the United Nations, I quote, "Violence against women and girls is one of the most widespread, persistent, and devastating human rights violations in our world today, and remains largely unreported due to the impunity, silence, stigma, and shame surrounding it." Quotations closed. The manifestations of violence against women and girls could be physical, sexual, or psychological. And examples include intimate partner violence, sexual violence and harassment, human trafficking, female genital mutilations, and child marriage. Did you know that 5 every hour is the number of girls or women that are killed by someone in their own family? The 16 Days of Activism campaign, which ends today, World Human Rights Day, was a global call to action, recognizing that gender-based violence against women and girls is a fundamental violation of human rights. On this World Human Rights Day, December 10th, 2022, the end of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, let's remember that gender inequality lies at the heart of violence against women and girls. We can achieve gender equality through education, active learning, through conscious decisions, respectful behaviors, and eliminating unconscious bias at home, work, and in the community. We have the power to bring about gender equality in our own lives, work, communities, and the world at large. On behalf of all the women of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, I say Happy World Human Rights Day. As Mrs. Hillary Clinton said in September 1995 in her address to the United Nations Fourth World Conference on Women, human rights are women's rights and women's rights are human rights. In the Ambazonia we are fighting for, women will enjoy the rights to participate fully in all aspects of nation building, and women's rights will be human rights, and human rights will be women's rights. Long live the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, and short live our struggle for recognition.
Fellow Amazonians, welcome back. We do not have Comrade Zama again. Any moment from now, we will be stopping this broadcast and we will only come back live when the president will be addressing the nation. But Barrister Fro, before this brief break, we had an important discussion and you were just pulling and pulling the emotions wide. I can feel the pain talking to you as a parent, what you feel, the way you esteem the need for us to fight and the need for tonight. Perhaps you want to elaborate a little bit more on that.
Well, buddy, as long as you are breathing, as long as you are still living, you are part of this generation. And you must give your own to free the homeland. We are fighting a war of our life, our best survivor. And anybody who is sitting on the fence or looking the other way, well, go ahead and look the other way. But know this, if we lose this war, you yourself who is looking the other way, you'll be worse than what you were before we enter this war. This war was declared on us. The Republic walked away from the Union. That is, if there was ever a Union. I argue that there was never a Union. But they walked away to show the world that they had finished assimilating us, they have finished colonizing us, and they went back to the name of their country, La République du Cameroon, as of independence, as it then was. And the only thing that happened to us is that they brought helicopter gunships, gunned down 300 of our children, moved a battalion to Mante, to Manu, and mowed down our young people, and we had no other choice but to defend ourselves. And we're saying never again, we will not be part of this French regime any longer. And we have been fighting since. And if you look away, that's fair and good, as long as you have a decision to make on your own. But if you are still under us, you will not be allowed to make that decision. Like I said before, let me repeat myself, Paddy, because maybe Ambazonians did not hear me. The new Ambazonia, the Federal Republic of Ambazonia that is born, was born on the 1st of October 2017, when we finally actualize our sovereignty, you can carry any passport of any citizenship in the world except La République du Cameroon. If you show up at the borders of the Federal Republic of Amazonia with a La République passport, we will treat you as a foreigner
You will
and
be
you must have a
immediately
visa.
deported.
No, we'll treat you like a foreigner. And if we have any relations with La République du Cameroon, we will treat you as a foreigner and I meet you as a foreigner with a visa.
Okay.
Look,
Okay.
I hope the children are listening. Those of them who are wrapping La République flag on themselves and dancing should know that it is short-lived because we're having our country, our total sovereignty in the next few months. I hope I will live to see it. Even if I don't live to see it, our children will have their country.
Exactly.
And everybody should walk towards that. Look, we can be persecuted everywhere in the world. It doesn't really matter, does it? Look at Somaliland. Somaliland, that everybody they refuse to give them their independence and so on. They survive today. Everybody wants to recognize Somaliland. I am not saying that we should be the same. We are calling on our brothers, African brothers, to give us the recognition, the independence that they gave us on the 21st of April, 1961, which was actualized on the 1st of October. Please, we are calling on you to recognize us at least. as a nation that you voted for it for its independence. La République has never executed Resolution 1608 because France and its allies, including La République, voted against it. But in the United Nations, whether you vote against a resolution or not, when it passes, it is applicable to everybody in the world. Unless it did not pass. If it passes, it's applicable to you. La République is a rogue regime. They don't respect any international law. And they have the audacity to come to visit in America, the land of the free. I'm saying, as a government, we will not take part in any demonstration in Washington. But as citizens of Amazonia, we are angry enough to come out and say, you, this genocidal dictator from Central Africa, you are not wanted in the land of the free. At least we can say that as citizens of Amazonia and citizens of the United States. Because a lot of us are citizens of the United States. I'm not one, but people like SOS Zama and others are citizens of the United States. You have a right to demonstrate. In fact, even those who are not citizens, the constitution of this country gives you the freedom to demonstrate. All I'm saying is that our children should know that we are sacrificing for them like our forefathers sacrificed for us. Even though they didn't know what they were doing, today we know what we're doing. The good thing, I want anybody to challenge me. Foncha, Endele, and Joa did not sign any document committing the Southern Cameroons to this so-called union.
And that's
So
where
our parents at least they knew what was in the cooking, but they were powerless because of the system that was put in place by France and Britain. And Britain is sitting there saying nothing. And they put us where we are. But is that a thing? Is that a reason for us to give up? We must fight on our own. Even if we all die, let Britain come and take the land and give it to La République like they are taking. They are drilling oil in the Gulf of Guinea. And look, I am calling on every Southern Cameroon to read the article written by Owonan Guinea, a university professor in Yaoundé. That geopolitical article that he wrote, he's telling La République that these people, all the oil that you are selling comes from Amazonia. And if Amazonian diplomacy gets to the French, you know that we are finished. I'm not going to. You are young people. Read that article to the end. And our own young people are drinking beer every day, dancing and carrying Cameroon flag. Pathetic.
No, some. The statement ours is giving a lot of credit to some.
A majority are in the bushes and fighting. Majority are the ones to deliver us. Even all of us talking here, if you don't carry a gun, you cannot liberate us. Our young people are doing that. But I'm saying that the other young people should not make it difficult for our young people, because when they see you like that, they are angry. They are human beings like you. Ambazonian Restoration Forces are living in the bushes and they are fighting every day for you to have freedom, and you are there carrying a flag, green, red, yellow.
Mr. Fru, and you see, they are those you would want to call happy slaves. When I look at some of their actions, it only explains one of two things. Number one, a system that is cruel, undemocratic, because you can see people carrying a flag, supposedly happy, but looking in their eyes, you see tears and fear. So they have been intimidated, and now they're happy slaves, and they're roaming around with flag. But we are telling you, watching us at home front now, that you can have more, you can do better than that. There is more integrity. You must not carry the flag. If you're so intimidated that you can't do anything, despise the flag. And let's see who will force you to carry the flag. While we're waiting for a member of the resource mobilization, the Secretary of State for the Department of Resource Mobilization has just indicated that he would love a member to chip in a word before we get wholly into the Zoom meeting. While we're waiting for that, Comrade Zama, I'm coming back to you. And this is all a talk, I would say conscious talk, bringing it back to the tables, making our people see it as a duty to participate. Again, the participation nationwide is geared towards the night, the federal government draft, which you have attested on this platform that it is very strategic. To encourage many more people, what should Amazonians expect? If you want to give time frame, go ahead. If not, just tell us, what should we be expecting in the days ahead as we are embarked on this journey with the president?
Well, I think most Amazonians should be the expectation and realities in the war. It's very different. Um, Running the Department of Defense it entails a lot, and it entails money, it entails capacity, it entails support and willingness of our people. Supporting the war effort does not necessarily mean that you have to carry a gun. Supporting the war effort can be defiant. It can be continuing to hold our country Sundays on the Mondays, continuing to listen to what the government is saying, to abide by what the rules are, the rules of engagement, attacking only government installations, attacking only military targeted military installations and personnel, and be at good peace with your citizens around your area. We are encouraging our soldiers to be. We've educated them on the Geneva Conventions of Engagements, and we are using that. And today we are asking you to give us your money, your hard-earned money, to give us your knowledge, to assist the people of Amazonia. We are not asking people to go harass other people. If somebody is not willing to contribute, that's his prerogative. But we want everybody to see this as an imperative to support the Amazonian people. Because even if you decide to be a conscientious objector of this war, it does not exclude you as an Anglophone to be massacred in Yaoundé, in Sangmalima, or anywhere. There's no person who is going to be asked why did that happen. There's no court of law that's going to find the person guilty. You are a moving target anywhere you are as an Amazonian. So we are asking everybody, whether you are engaged or you are not engaged, you are a target. So I'll say, well, right, it's a binary decision to be a member of this fight against the enemy, a fight against evil, as I would say it. But we cannot do that without all hands on deck. All hands on deck, as they say in my primary school days, many hands do light work. We could cut the time frame that we have if we don't have people who are busy undercutting what the efforts of this government is to bring liberty to the Amazonian people. We are asking our people, the larger the majority out there who is out there to stake the claim that Amazonia should be independent, that will happen sooner than if we are fragmented. We are asking everybody to do what it can do in this fight. And today is that day that you can put your hard-earned money, put your ideas. We need your ideas. We need your support. We need your money. It doesn't only have to come to be cash. Your manpower, your body, your blood, your sweat, and we will provide the irons for this fight.
Talking about fragmentation, Cameroon keeps strategizing. One of their ways is, first of all, to fragment us. Another way is to ask us to unite via proxies, via those who supposedly should be Southern Cameroonians. We've received a lot of so-called platforms calling for unity, and our denial of their format of unity is presenting an image as though we are haters of togetherness. But then the question is, when you ask them, the unity you're proposing, on what framework? They are mute. The recent one that may become public one of these days is Cameroon and their enablers, those who want to call themselves Southern Cameroonians but deny the word Ambazonia. They are trying to fragment, separate Ambazonia from Southern Cameroons. So they said that will not Ambazonia team. So they associate the restoration forces to Ambazonians, demonizing them, claiming they are the kidnappers, and then they call themselves Southern Cameroonians. Some of them during 1st October celebrated Happy Federation Federalism Day. That was scandalous. Others, as we speak, they are claiming that they that are supposedly unionists and federalists, they are Southern Cameroonians, and independentists are Ambazonians. There is a gimmick there, there's a fraud there. And this is where I think the both of you will have to talk deeply. We have to start educating the people on this. That is the new game plan now. The fact is, we've fought for them to be able to call themselves within the Cameroons, Southern Cameroonians, and they want to own the word by calling independentists Amazonians and calling themselves Southern Cameroonians. There's something technical about that. Please, Barrister Fu.
I think let me run with this before I run
Yes,
out.
please. Yes, Comrade Zamar, run with that. I understand.
I think we have to understand that there are people out there who are purporting to be Ambazonians. La Republique is going to do its best, but I say Ambazonia is like a hydra. Once you cut one tentacle, the other tentacles grows, and it grows widely. The idea of an Ambazonian liberty and independence is not quenchable. La Republique will not be able to contain it, and it will not be able to squash it. But at the end of the day, for those who have decided to act on behalf of themselves, not the people of Ambazonia, that's their interest. They could bargain whatever they want to bargain. If you do not have the other thing to hand to the buyer, it won't succeed. In my village, they say a legs without a head doesn't go anywhere, because the head has to tell the legs to walk. So these people are just legs walking out there without no head, which is the content of the Ambazonian people. They are out there acting on their own volition to get whatever they can get in this society where bribery and corruption is a common crop of the year for them. Everybody wants to harvest what they can harvest from La Republique. They know it's a dying system. It's a dying system because the roots are already rotten. It's coming up, the leaves are going to be falling off, and it's falling off very soon. These people are trying to shake out anything they can get from the regime. There are some who are busy talking on Cameroon TV how they brought this trial onto the Ambazonian government, and they want to show that we are terrorists and all that. They've not done anything. America did whatever it has to do within its judicial system, and we have to look at that. These people are not citizens of Ambazonia in the real faith of it. It's a binary decision to make. Either you are with Ambazonia or you are not. And the choice they've made, and they've made that choice that they are not. And that's why they are acting in a rogue manner that they are acting. We should not forget the different stories or the different levels of betrayal, but we should move on. We should stop basing our existence on these people, because they are not. They don't give us air, and they are just legs without a head on them. They will not go for too long.
Thank you very much, Comrade Ghana, for that. I am trying to connect a resource mobilization member to give us some final words. I am also made to understand that Amber One is already waiting on the Zoom. I'm calling on those who are watching on Facebook, get yourself ready, and on YouTube. We will be stopping this show any moment from now. As soon as it begins, we will stop. We'll come live only when the president has to speak. I need to give you a goodbye now, Comrade Zama. Thank you for being a
Thank you.
part of this. Mr. Fu, please, you want to react on that?
Yes, I want to say that you cannot separate what is inseparable. What is La Republic doing that Eritrea, Ethiopia did not do to Eritrea? What is La Republic doing that Indonesia did not do to East Timor? What are they doing that Sudan did not do to South Sudan? You see, these are the elements of any revolution. La Republic has developed all kinds of strategies to break us. They have bought with money those of our people with long throat, like they say in pidgin English, to fight against us. A man like Ayabacho and his rock team, his rebels, his kidnappers, his rogues, his thieves, are being financed and armed by La République du Cameroon against us. It happens in most revolutions. The Palestinians are there to tell you a story. The Israelis were arming a branch of the Palestinians to fight against the Palestinians. But the Palestinians still had a homeland. And they had a homeland today, even though they are not yet independent, but they have a homeland. They were living in exile. Look, La Republic can go ahead and do its worst. Ambazonia is a reality. They will not succeed in doing anything. I listen. Only fools fall twice. Only fools fall twice. A wise man falls one and learns from it. And I think people like Chris Anu, people like Ayabacho, people like Ayuk Tabe, people like Fontem Neba, my learned colleague Carson Anyangwe, my learned colleague Monzo, they should learn something. They all have children. All what they went to do in Canada, how does that help the future of their children? How does that help them? They will soon die and go, just like I'm going to die very soon. They will die too. What happens to the children? They will stay under La République du Cameroon and go through what we have been through. Think about that. A lot of these coup plotters and enablers and so on, they have children growing. What are they going to do? When they're dying, will they take the children along with them? It's pathetic. You cannot separate the inseparable. La Republic has done everything, even before some of us were born. They made sure that they colonized us. They put all the brakes, the Calais, the everything. Paddy, you were just talking about what happened to you, to you and your friends in Bamenda. It had existed for 60 years. We went through all this. So what is it that they can do now that will stop us from having our homeland? We already have our homeland. All we want is sovereignty to govern our homeland. They are exploiting our homeland and living on it. Without the Gulf of Guinea, La Republic is nothing. Go and read Owonangini. That is the greatest enemy of Ambazonia. But he puts out a scholarly article. Read it very carefully. They are there because we are here. We cut off CDC from them. We cut off PAMO from them. We cut off Sonara from them. But they are still having our crude oil. They are still living and surviving because of the Gulf of Guinea. I heard the minister this morning talking about business people not paying taxes. Let him be my guest. They have stopped. They have not collected. I don't know how much taxes they have collected from from Ambazonia since this war started. Next is zero. And they will not. Ambazonia is a reality. We will be totally free in the next few months, so that we can leave a legacy to our children, and they will live to enjoy the fruits of their parents' labor. Look at Ambazonia has the resources, both human and natural, that can make them a modern state in West Africa. Mark my word, we are not in Central Africa, we are in West Africa. So, Paddy,
Well,
if you wouldn't mind, I want to join the Zoom. I want
yes,
to join the Zoom.
I'm actually waiting for resource mobilization to give the cue, and we are expecting a resource mobilization official who is trying to connect so that she can make a contribution in this discussion. As soon as they give us the cue,
have you sent her the password?
To her, I'm waiting for her to connect. As soon as they give us the cue, we'll stop this discussion. But as you were talking, this is what was coming to my mind. This is a time when we have to do instead of you have people taking actions. Why those who are picking up arms have taken actions and they're doing what they are supposed to do. We're expecting those who have gathered on in the Zoom meeting this evening to take action. You have given from a government perspective that we will not go out to protest as a government, and your explanation is clear for all to understand that it is not dignifying for a government to do that. But as citizens who are vexed, the government is not stopping anyone from taking that initiative to go out there and to protest. That is what is called during a liberation movement like ours, plausible deniability. And I think it is quite strategic. But Dr. Mungwa, a spokesperson for the interim government earlier this morning, sent out a very important message for those who have not heard it. He gave us some strategies that are needful. Just stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Alert, alert, alert. This is Dr. Martin Mungwa, Secretary of State for Communication and IT for the interim government. Dear Ambassadors, and especially those in the United States, we have learned from reliable sources that the head of the genocidal regime in La République du Cameroon, in the name of Paul Biya, will be arriving in the United States and Washington, D.C. in particular, tomorrow, December 10th. I call on all Ambazonians of goodwill and even friends of Ambazonia to call their congressmen and tell them that the head of the regime that has been killing Ambazonians mercilessly for the past 6 years will be arriving the United States tomorrow, December the 10th, to meet with President Biden. It is very important at this time to raise awareness about the genocide that is taking place in our homeland. And it is a great moment for the United States law people to make sure that President Biden brings up this matter with Paul Biya and make sure that this genocide that is taking place in our country comes to a stop, and to make sure that there is a meeting between Mr. Biya's government and the interim government, and to make sure in order to bring this genocide to a close. So I am calling on all Ambazonians, especially those residents in the United States, to call their congressmen and make sure that they are alerted about their imminent arrival of Mr. Paul Biya to the United States, Washington, D.C. Thank you. Goodbye.
Finally, we got you. Ma, Regina, you're
Robert,
welcome. Your dress is looking so alike, like a rapper we have not officially sold. We might just hold you for copyright. You're welcome.
thank you, Director
Yes,
Paddy.
without any waste of time, you're the one we've been waiting for. We will be, as you conclude the discussion, we will just be going into the Zoom meeting. I understand that the president is already there. And I'm also calling on Dr. Kejang to make Amber One a co-host. Dr. Kejang, please kindly make Amber One a co-host. Okay, what is there for us from the Department of Resource Mobilization? I guess that's why you're here.
Yeah, before I answer your question, let me send my greetings to, of course, Barrister Fru, and I don't know if SOS Zama had left, which he was about to, and
Okay.
greetings to everybody. Director Paddy, you are doing a great job, and I am so delighted. I don't know what to say to be on this platform of ABC with Barrister Fru, which I really highly respect.
Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Well, before I go to why we are here today, I just want listening earlier from what Barrister Fru and SOS Zama were talking about our federal government draft. I mean, what else? I mean, what else can we say? They had said it all, and this is something we had talked to our people, educate our people for this struggle. This struggle, what we are going to, is all about money. It's all about firepower on the ground. Without firepower, without money, there won't be any war. We won't be fighting. So today, the federal government draft. This is the first time we are drafting for the government. We draft for other counties. We draft for ABC. And resource mobilization came up with this, that we have to draft for federal government. The fact being that when the original plan was when all counties are drafted, and a portion to federal government, that way do what they are required to do from the federal level. But this did not work, and we all know when there is a problem on the ground, they pick up the phone and call the president. The president can't do anything without money. The federal government can't do anything without money. So the resource mobilization came up with this, that we have to, draft for federal government. That way they can carry their activities what at their level that is required. So that's why we came up with this. We came up with that all government departments have to draft. Everybody has to draft on this. Is today we will know who is a real Ambazonia. If you are cheering for Ambazonia independent without drafting, we don't know which independent you are, cheering for, because we can't carry this struggle, this fight. We can't, equip our fighters on the ground without money. So, and again, this draft today for the federal government is not only for the IG or the government, the president. The money is going only to the fighters. When there is like the fighters, widows, they have problem, they need money, they call the president. Our refugees scattered all over, they call the president. He needs money to support these people. So the federal government draft today is to put money in the government coffer. That way the president can do what he's supposed to do. Diplomacy, we need money for diplomacy. So all this, that is why we decided to come up with the federal government draft. Again, today and back, the reason why we are not getting a portion from all the counties we had drafted is because these counties are not getting the money the people drafted. So today for the government, the federal government draft, we decided it's going to be cash. It's going to be cash. You pay, you send your receipt. Even through your county, your department, your federal department, you pay. There is no pledging, because when we pledge, we don't know when you are going to pay. So today is cash in hand, because you pledge. We don't fight war on credit. What the government will have at hand, that is what we're going to use. So today draft is cash. If you have problem not paying all you
Yeah,
can
Nijo, I
today,
am on television,
talk.
and I was just what I
Was Barrister Fru saying something?
We're sorry for that interruption. Barrister Fru was receiving a call. Go ahead, ma'am.
okay.
So that
Sorry,
is
ma.
what we
Sorry, ma.
decided today. And today, if you are an Ambazonian cheering for this independent, which we are lucky to have somebody like our president, President Sako, we are behind him, and we are here today to draft for the government, for the federal government, to give him what he needs. And again, this draft today, we see some counties they don't have enough people to support those counties, but they have fighters on the ground. So this support today, this draft today will help, the government, will help the president to, support those areas that are weak, to push on this struggle. So thank you, Comrade Paddy.
I will, ma. You
Thank
see,
you.
Mr. Fu, you're going to conclude now.
Yes.
We cannot move to the Zoom. I believe it will be high time to start. The president has been there for a while. But then just to link up with what has been said by Comrade Zama, Barrister Fro, and Yuma, and what the president said, the state of Amazonia has been, we have received sufficient education thus far, the importance of the federal draft. The vice president, during an interview on ABC that was on Thursday, actually said that their initiative, that means based on available data, based on field work and feedback, the federal government wants to carry initiatives that for the past 3 years have not been successful, maybe not because of ineffectiveness of government framework, but because of communication of resources. And you have given some of the reasons why the resources are not communicated. But the federal government is thinking perhaps if we will change our strategy. And I believe that we cannot be doing the same thing and expecting another result. If you look at the way Cameroon is fighting, they have changed their own strategy. And there's need for this strategy for the federal government that has the situation room on their palms to also review our strategy. And it begins from resource mobilization. I'm confident from what the president, vice president, Zama, and all the resource mobilization is saying, that there is a strategy at hand. And now execution is the last phase. We are talking about the same government that has proven that we can do this. Never before in the history of Southern Cameroons have we come close to anything better than what this government did from the year 2019 into 2020 into 2021. Never before. We're having the same mastermind calling Amazonians tonight to come up in all their regalia, in their pride and dignity, and to contribute for the same cause, but a new strategy. Barrister Fru, please, you want to give us the final statements as we stop
Yes,
this process?
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Paddy. I was interrupting Masera when I made the call to Nijo to note the fact that I paid my 250 this morning and that he should
Wow,
record it properly.
that's
That is why I made that choice. Just to tell you that we are all ready. Everybody should pay in. There is no room for drafting. It's all cash. Pay it in and bring the federal government to a point where it would never lack resources to step in, as Ma Serra has just said.
just a moment.
Thank you
Let
very
me
much.
communicate this information right now, please. But Dr. Kejam, please, officials, you have Professor Tebo is waiting. Please, do you want to make her co-host? Amber One is there. Do you want to make him co-host? And the other officials that can help tonight, please. Dr. Mungwa is also there. Do you want to make him co-host? Thank you very much. I'm sorry for that interruption.
Yes, I'm saying that every one of us should buckle up, put your hands in your pocket, and let's empower our federal government to take its responsibilities fully. That is all I have to say. And I'd like to thank Masera for the work she has been doing. She's very, very dynamic. She's the chairlady of Mamfe Central. She's in the resource mobilization. She's everywhere. Thank you, Ma. We have to fight for the children. We are not fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for the children. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Paddy,
you.
for
Master,
inviting me.
that's okay. Master, do you have any final words?
Yes, as Brother Fru rightly said, we cannot pass this war to our children, our grandchildren. We cannot. We cannot leave this unfinished war. We have to push it. So, Comrade Paddy, I am going to, say something here concerning money. Okay, there are people. If you are in this struggle and you are not lifting a finger, there are people here that they are not in their counties. They are not in any. If you cannot be in any government department without being in your counties and in your county anywhere, and they are in this whether forums or forums, they call them. They create forums and they drag some of us into these forums. So my appeal to them and to everybody that is an administrator to any forum. Some of us, for me, if I look at the any forum that I'm in, and you, the administrator, you are not contributing. I know a lot of them, they are not in their counties because they don't want to spend, they don't want to pay, they don't want to contribute in anything. But my appeal tonight that all of us here, if you are in any forum that is there are some administrators that they are not in their counties, they are not contributing, exit. I for one, I will do that. Because some they just drag us and put a few people administrators, some of us administrators, and these people, they are not paying a dime. They are not supporting in any way other than picking messages here and putting it in all for us the same thing. So, Comrade Paddy, I'm sorry, maybe it took too long, but that is what I've realized with these people. There are some people, they don't contribute, but they are all over social media.
Thank you very much, Masera. And Manu County did a clean up of the house just a few days ago. I think that's an example other counties may want to emulate, and we will work on our platform so that we can create a platform for stakeholders and not noisemakers during such a delicate time. It is time to have those who are focused than those who will distract us from what we are doing. Thank you, lady and gentlemen, for being a part of this. I'm calling on Ambazonians now that are watching us to join the Zoom meeting. The president has been there waiting, and we've already hit 100 people on the Zoom, and that's amazing. We're hoping that we'll do more hundreds. We have more people watching us on YouTube and on Facebook. We're going to stop the stream right now. But before we do that, I want you to reflect a little bit, some from my vintage point, why the federal government draft is superlatively imperative. When you have the federal government is like the heart of a structure. Our LGAs are cells, our counties are organs or systems or whatever you want to call them. But I'm trying to paint a picture to say body. When the heart fails, the body will fail. Perhaps you have a wrong notion of the Amber Peace Plan, and you thought that an LGA was an autonomous structure. No, it is not. That's a misunderstanding. Now that you're getting this corrected, perhaps you also may want to go to our website that will be published one of these days and read very closely the concept behind the Amber Peace Plan. It was meant for mobilization, for network, for shared governance, not for autonomous governance. And I understand particularly Coopers misunderstood this. And that's why some perhaps were resisting to pay their dues to the federal government. It was a mistake. You may be thinking it was a chance for you to control, but you just did not understand that you made a mistake because you were putting yourself in danger. As I speak to you, I have more than 20 numbers from people, mostly from Bui and Gokitunja, with videos and pictures that are calling, they have wounds, particularly from Bui. I forwarded them to the federal government, and the counties cannot even sustain it. So at the end of the day, it was a mistake for you to think that you might want to operate your LGA or your county as an autonomous structure. This is a strategic move from the government, and you will only be a patriotic citizen to be a part of it. Thank you for being a part of this pre-show. I hope resource mobilization will be ready now to take over the baton from me.
Greetings, and it's a privilege for us, for me to be here this evening. I'm looking to team up with you guys. My great team is here. Everybody's set to get through today. One of the very first editions, that one of